The throne room of the Jothic flagship was a cathedral of bioluminescent crystal, pulsing with the collective consciousness of a dying empire. Queen Vexera sat upon her obsidian throne, her 4 eyes watching the human soldier approach with a mixture of curiosity and despair. The war was over. Her people had lost. Sergeant Jack Morrison walked forward, his powered armor's servos whirring softly in the eerie silence. Behind him, the wreckage of the final battle still smoldered through the viewport, human and Jothic vessels alike, locked in their eternal dance of mutual destruction. He had come alone as requested, one soldier to accept the surrender of an entire civilization. "You are the emissary?" Vexara's voice emerged from the translation matrix, melodious despite the circumstances. Her crystalline carapace reflected the dying light of her homeworld's star, visible through the massive windows. "I am," Jack replied, his voice filtered through his helmet speakers. "Sergeant Jack Morrison, Sol Expeditionary Force." The Queen rose from her throne, her towering 3-meter frame still regal despite defeat. Her kind had ruled the outer reaches for 10,000 cycles, expanding through conquest and assimilation. They had encountered hundreds of species, absorbed their knowledge, integrated their biology. But humanity had been different. Humanity had fought back with a ferocity that defied calculation. "Your species confounds us," Vexara said, descending the steps toward him. "We studied your transmissions before first contact. We saw your art, your music, your constant wars with one another. We calculated that you would be easy to divide and conquer." She paused, her mandibles clicking in what Jack's cultural training recognized as bitter amusement. "We were wrong." Jack said nothing. He had read the reports. The Jothic had expected humanity to fracture under pressure, to betray each other for survival. Instead, Earth's nations had unified within weeks of the first attack. The species that could barely agree on anything had become a singular force of resistance. "I wish to understand," the Queen continued, "before my people accept integration into your commonwealth. Why do humans fight so desperately? Your world is small, your lifespans are brief. You possess no natural weapons, no telepathic networks, no genetic memory. By all metrics, you should have been assimilated within a solar cycle." Jack reached up to his helmet. The locks disengaged with a hiss of equalizing pressure. He pulled it free, revealing the face beneath, young, scarred, undeniably human. What happened next would become legend across 1,000 worlds. Vexara's 4 eyes widened, their pupils contracting to pinpoints. Her antennae, which had been held rigid with royal dignity, suddenly drooped. A sound emerged from deep within her thorax, a keening, resonant note that her kind had not made in millennia. Moisture gathered at the corners of her primary eyes, crystallizing as it touched the air. The alien queen was crying. "You're a child," she whispered, the translation matrix struggling with the emotion in her voice. "By the ancestral swarm. You're all children." Jack stood at attention, his jaw set. He was 23 standard years old. In the Sol Expeditionary Force, that made him a veteran. He had been fighting since he was 19. Vexara's legs trembled. She had accessed the biological data, of course. She knew humans lived approximately 80 of their years, perhaps 100 with medical intervention, but knowing and understanding were different things. She had lived for 400 cycles. Her advisors were older still. They had fought a war against creatures who barely lived long enough to see their children grown. "How old are you?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. 23, Your Majesty." "And the youngest of your warriors?" Jack's expression hardened. 18. That's the minimum recruitment age. But there are stories of younger ones lying about their age to enlist. The Queen's legs finally gave way. She sank to the floor, her regal bearing shattered. The crystalline tears flowed freely now, leaving trails of bioluminescent fluid down her carapace. Her attendants moved forward in alarm, but she waved them back with one trembling limb. "We thought you were like us," she said, her voice breaking. "Ancient, patient, playing the long game of empire. But you're not, are you? Every human who fought us did so knowing they would never see the peace they died for. You spent your entire brief lives at war because you believed your children might inherit something better." Jack shifted his weight, uncomfortable with the display of emotion. "That's what soldiers do, ma'am. We stand the watch so others don't have to." "No," Vexara said firmly, rising with effort. "That is what humans do. That is why you won." She approached Jack slowly, extending one delicate claw. He didn't flinch as she gently touched his scarred cheek. You fight with the desperation of the dying because you are always dying. Every moment is precious to you because you have so few of them. She turned to look at her assembled court, at the Jothic military commanders who had orchestrated the war. We fought for empire, for territory, for resources we didn't need. They fought for survival, for each other, for people they would never meet. We had everything to gain. They had everything to lose. Jack cleared his throat. Your Majesty, I'm here to discuss terms. No, Vexara interrupted, straightening to her full height. The tears still flowed, but her voice carried the authority of 10,000 cycles of rule. There are no terms. The Jothic collective surrenders unconditionally. We will join your commonwealth, adopt your laws, and help you rebuild what we destroyed. It is the least we can do. She looked at Jack again, and her voice softened. How many of your seasons have you seen, Sergeant Morrison? How many cycles of growth around your star? 23, Jack repeated. In my time, I have seen 400 cycles. I have ruled for 200. And in all that time, with all my experience and wisdom, I could not imagine what you children accomplished. You took your brief, brilliant lives and used them to protect those even more fragile than yourselves. She bowed her head, a gesture of ultimate respect among her kind. Humanity earned its place among the stars not through strength or technology, but through the courage to sacrifice everything for tomorrow. Jack stood in silence, processing her words. Behind him, through his armor's communication system, he could hear Lieutenant Anna Chen's voice crackling to life. She was commanding the escort ships in orbit, probably wondering why the negotiation was taking so long. Jack, status report. Is everything okay down there? He looked at the weeping alien queen, at the assembled Jothic leadership bowing their heads in respect and shame, at the end of a war that had cost millions of human lives. He thought of his sister who had died at the Battle of Titan, of Anna's brother lost at Proxima Centauri, of all the brief, brilliant lives spent to reach this moment. Status is complicated, Lieutenant, Jack replied, but the war is over. We won. Through the viewport, the first rays of Earth's sun began to illuminate the diplomatic zone, a new dawn breaking across the assembled fleets. And in that light, the alien queen of the Jothic collective continued to weep, not for her lost empire, but for the children who had defeated it, and for the terrible, beautiful price of their victory. For the first time in her 400-cycle life, Queen Vexara understood what it meant to be mortal, and she wept for the humans who had taught her that lesson with their blood, their courage, and their impossibly short lives lived in service of an infinite dream. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never be the same.